Internet, YouTube, people of conscience, people of conscience. I haven't made a video for a while. I have a lot on my mind. I haven't made a video for a while. I thought I'm not going to disappear. I'm not going to be as consistent with many videos because I personally don't feel it's that much. I don't place that much importance on video other than I connect with people of conscience. People that are like-minded. I'm not an information person. I think I really like the video like a painting, in the sense that when you do an opening or you show people your paintings, it's kind of the same thing. You connect with people that are on the same wave, floating on the same wave. Anyway, I thought I would chime in and have a bit of a refresher and synopsize other topics and thoughts I've had in regard to what we're facing. We are in the fight for our lives, all of us. All life on this planet is in the fight for our lives. We are in the age of fission. And I'm just going to make a comment that I have said it in many different ways, I think, before, but we essentially all know. I believe, I'm convinced that we all know what it is we're about to face and what we're facing. And it's not a very, how can I say this? It's like, you know, I sometimes, I remember when I was at the Prado looking at the Goya paintings, those brutal, grotesque images that he painted, especially of Saturn eating his children. And the mythologies that have carried through our history, the brutality in our nature represented in these paintings, and they were not pretty, to say the least. The topics that Goya decided to tackle in his paintings were not comfortable topics. And I know why he did it, because he was witness to the destruction. And we are all witness to the destruction. So we need to acknowledge the work that is being done that represents and reflects the nature of our situation now. There is no point in me trying to hide away, do what I do, and cross my fingers and hope for the best, especially if I know what's happening. And what's happening is the destruction, the potential destruction of a huge part of life on this planet from the nuclear bunch that have refused to step back. Well, Germany has said, we don't want this toxic garbage around us anymore. And I mean, we're on an island together. Germany is not isolated. Just because they get rid of the nukes doesn't mean they're not going to be affected. They know that. So the effort has to be global, obviously. But we start personally. This is what I've always said, that there is no point in me giving the structure to fix something that I have no expertise in. However, I do have an expertise in something based on my own experience in my own life, and how I feel as a human being when what I say, I act my conscience and I do the right thing. So it's not for me to tell anybody what they need to do or not do, other than come to this moment, you know, come to your own personal Jesus. Johnny Cash, I love that last album that he did. It's brilliant, the heartfelt. I mean, his voice was feeble, but his entire being was in that that album. Anyway, there is what I call the a priori. In our lives, we face a day-to-day existence that has nothing to do with global. It has to do with personal, and possibly the neighbor or the community that we live in. And you know, when you're living in cities, there is no community anymore. Cities are devoid of community because it's impersonal. There are so many people. I find this somewhat difficult to be in a city. I'm not in a city anymore, but I find it difficult when I go to Toronto. I find the people are beautiful when you contact people, but there is this separation that I feel, which is difficult. I'm a shy person in many ways. Uh, some don't believe me, but when I was in high school, I couldn't get up and do a speech in front of people, and that lasted a long time until I went through like 10 or 20 of my shows where I had to say stuff. So I'm not as difficult with my public presentations anymore. But anyway, what I wanted to reflect in my return after a few weeks, 2-3 weeks, I want to reiterate the a prioris as I understand it. And we all know, we have the information. Now that doesn't mean we don't, we want the facts. Yes, we want the facts. The information will lead us to the facts, and we do want the facts. But I have said in a previous video that it's more important for me, to feel the honesty rather than hear the truth. I don't care about the truth. I want people to be honest. Because we cannot, especially in this inundation with everything coming at us, how do you decipher what is true, what is false? And people will take advantage of this, obviously. They will take advantage because there's manipulation and subterfuge. When you feel people thinking in terms of, especially being in a city, when you're inundated with such a large number of people all around you that you're not connected to, you're psychologically or psychically you're connected, but somehow emotionally we can't handle this incredible, what is that? All these souls, these feelings, these emotions all around, all the time. It's overwhelming if you're a sensitive person, which I've been living rural for the last 20 years, and I can feel it more now when I go back. But I wanted to just make this brief comment which reiterates things I've said. There is an a priori, what I've said, how we allow children to be abused or murdered. And we know this is happening. We know this is happening. And the advocates, the advocates that come out, there are a few of them, they're pummeled, they're decimated. They're decimated. Like Kevin Annett, he's decimated by the detractors, and it's irrational, makes no sense. You come out and you say, I want to make sure children are not abused, and somebody says, hey, let's hammer this guy. It makes no sense. You see, it makes no sense. And to criticize me for saying that someone who defends the vulnerable, to attack me for that, makes no sense. It's irrational. These are nutbags. These are depraved people. They're deranged. So the a priori, in regard, what I understand in my day-to-day life is to find that personal honesty, which is related to my conscience. And it creates a platform that will initiate personal action. I'm convinced of this. I think that the docility that people who come out on the internet and YouTube and talk about this stuff, they're so frustrated. Oh, they're sheeple. I hate that word, sheeple. I do not like that, because what's happening is happening on a personal level. It's not out there. We want to externalize the problem because we want to cast blame, or we want results and we feel frustrated because we can't get it. So we have to go to the a priori, the basic level of who we are as human beings, to fulfill what I say, fulfill our calling. And the 101 of that is to be honest and to actually begin to influence others through our actions with this honesty, acting our conscience. I think that's how it works. And you all know, I don't have to give you the information. And the facts are even very clear now. And you listen to someone like Dana Durnford, who dissects. He's not an information person. He creates a psychic ability. He creates through his effort, through his work on the ground, on the water, taking our spirit on the water, taking the camera, showing us how desolate the tidal pools are of all life because something has gone wrong in the Pacific Ocean. This is what he is saying. So he's not only giving us information, he's creating a framework, a psychic framework for us to actually begin to feel there is honesty, number one, about this, having proved himself what he has done, having proved himself. It's like, I'm making my paintings, which are which are progressing. I'm not standing here saying, oh, I'm an artist, I'm an artist, I do paintings, yeah, I'm an artist. No, I make paintings, and they're coming along. These are my Pacific paintings. The paintings about the destruction of the Pacific. And they're coming along, they're evolving, they're completely different from anything I've done before. Obviously, we've never faced this situation before. So what is demanded, like Goya, painting his ghoulish images and Saturn eating his children. I mean, there is a mythology about that, but the way he painted it had never been done before. So the a priori, though, I want to get back to this and just bring this into the consciousness of people that listen to my videos and what I feel I can offer in terms of my own understanding is to create some sort of ability through, you know, I mean, ideally you have to see the paintings in person, but to create some sort of ability in another through my efforts, to be able to internalize, to bring this character, this Shiva character who is now Fukushiva, this icon, this logo that I've created based on the mythical creature of Shiva, an iteration of Krishna. And Krishna has so many different forms. This is one of them, the multi-armed creature that is supposedly saying, now I'm become death, destroyer of worlds. And it's always been in a mythology. It's a metaphor. And it's not about pummeling anybody or killing anybody. And they've interpreted in the Mahabharata, you have all this activity about brothers and sisters and brothers killing each other and having vendettas and meeting up with the clans and the joining of clans and pummeling of clans. No. It's a metaphor for an inner struggle that we're losing. That's what I've always been saying. We're losing this inner struggle, which is why we're facing Fukushima and the ultimate destruction that will come if we allow this nuclear criminal syndicate to keep going the way it's going. It will eventually, it will end in a very bad way, and it's already in a bad way. There is no way of expressing the distress that I feel as I'm working on these paintings, and I'm keeping my spirits up because I say you have to conjure something within yourself that is positive. You cannot just sort of go into the darkness the way that Goya withdrew into, he became a recluse. He went away. He was no longer in the courts. I guess he had enough money from his earlier career as a court painter, and he became a recluse. He went kind of crazy because he understood the struggle that we're going to have over the next generations. I think he foresaw this. He understood this. The same way, I suppose, that one could even say that Vincent, in that primeval energy of his paintings, foresaw the struggle we face to give us courage, to give us strength, to not conform. I'm covering a lot of points here. It's been on my mind as I'm working. It's been on my mind. And I want to recoup and create a bit of a synopsis of all my earlier videos, and some of them I flail about. But I just want to say that there is this a priori, this a priori, that is, we are each individual person, all 7 billion plus now on this planet, is capable of living up to this very, very simple ability that we have, which is to follow our conscience and do the right thing. And I'm not going to say what each person has to do. I'm not going to fall into this trap. Like all the detractors who are using the good faith that is YouTube, that is people out there who act in good faith is being abused. And for good reason. Because if you can pummel the people that are acting in good faith, what else is left? What else is left? If you can't trust each other anymore, what else is left? And this is the subterfuge in YouTube, that people no longer trust each other because the information is being so manipulated and hurled at people. If you look at the elections, the Clinton Trump fiasco, what's happening down there, it's so, they haven't got a clue anymore. because they've lost touch with their own selves. Because if people were living the honesty, they would be so easily, they would destroy these individuals psychically within themselves. There is no way a Trump or a Clinton could ever come to power when people exercise this ability. They would never be able to get even, 2 steps out of the door. It wouldn't work. I'm convinced of that. It wouldn't work. We won't allow this to happen. However, we are in the situation that we're in because we're in the fight for our lives and we're not primed for it. We're not ready for it. We weren't educated. I wasn't educated. I did not have good role models or examples. I mean, people tried. My parents tried the best they could. They provided the best they could. They were loving. But I was not primed with the strength that is required in order to act my conscience. It's something that I had to learn through my own experience, and I've come to it, and I hopefully can fulfill my destiny like everyone else. What I'm hoping everyone else will be in some form or other exercising their own abilities in this regard. And it's not something that you were taught. It's something quite often. There are people that had marvelous upbringings where this was absolutely clear and straightforward on every level, but it's rare because we have to come to this. And I'm still thinking about my. I'd like to do a dissertation symposium exchange on the idea of eternity. I feel this is the next level of insight that I might actually have, not in terms of what happens after you're dead. No, eternity is now. Eternity is now. We're in it, and religions and spiritual movements have always hijacked this concept we have an innate understanding about, that eternity is now. It is an internal reality that is manifested outside of us. And whether or not we're losing that battle is reflected in the outside world. The more craziness and mayhem happens around us, the destruction, the more it reflects how we're losing that inner battle. So all the these myopic visionaries that we listen to, these nihilists that talk about all the, very well, the facts, the information and the facts, but if it's not something that is meaningful to each individual, like someone is starving on the other end of the planet in Africa, and you hear people say, oh, we have to save the kids. Yeah, well, it's a noble effort, but I don't feel connected to that. But I feel connected to the people around me. And I think this is where it's going to change. It's not how we're going to affect somebody at 5,000 or 10,000 miles somewhere else. It's how we affect each other. And that's why I think I always did the YouTube, because I like to connect with like-minded people. And I have done that. I have been very fortunate to have met some extraordinary people. And I will go on. And my Pacific paintings, I've got quite a number already. They're moving, because this is an exciting time as well for me, because I'm digging down and finding something in myself I've never actually looked at or thought about. So it's coming out. Anyway, I'm not gone.